With over 5 million listeners tuning into podcasts worldwide, businesses and personal brands have found it an essential channel to connect with larger audiences and share their ideas and stories. The list of reasons you should start a podcast is pretty long, but once you decide to hop in, it may surprise you to discover that it's not as simple as just pressing the record button. Sure, recording your audio is a given, but there are a number of things you'll need to have in place in order to publish your very first podcast episode that have nothing to do with the audio itself. So if you're ready to get started in podcasting, stick around to learn the 5 essential elements you'll need besides the audio to launch your very first podcast series. A game plan. You can't get to where you're going without a roadmap. And the same applies to your podcast journey. Whether you plan to have a seasonal podcast or a year-round production, it's crucial to outline your content somewhere, a single document, Excel spreadsheet, or even your calendar. This will provide a clear structure and guide for your podcast episodes. When we work with our clients, we use our podcast series strategy guide. This tool helps us generate episode ideas, establish schedule and production timelines, develop detailed abstracts for each episode, and identify all the individuals involved. This provides a comprehensive overview of the podcast series, enabling us to maintain schedules and come to each recording fully prepared. Having a solid game plan in writing is your first step to publishing a successful podcast. The theme music and intro template. The theme music of your podcast is one of the first things your listeners will hear in the introduction of each episode. So with that in mind, it's crucial to select a theme song that not only aligns with your brand, but also with the content that you're going to be presenting. If your host and guests have a really high energy vibe, you should choose music that will amp your listeners up, preparing them for the energy level of the episode. On the other hand, if your podcast focuses maybe on mental health or meditation, you may opt for something a little more laid back and relaxing, giving your listeners a calming experience moving into your episode. It's also worth mentioning that when it comes to choosing your theme music, you can't just use your favorite Taylor Swift song. Doing so would be putting yourself at risk for copyright infringement. Unless you paid for licensing, of course. Instead, there's a huge collection of royalty-free music tracks you can use, and you can find these on various websites for a one-time licensing fee. And this fee will be substantially less than a licensing fee for Taylor Swift, I can guarantee that. You can also record a canned intro to overlay on top of your theme music for each episode. This will give your show a formal introduction and will be familiar to repeat listeners while giving new listeners a general idea of what to expect from your podcast series. The canned intro should serve as the elevator pitch of your show, introducing your host and giving listeners a general idea of what to expect from your show. This will give your podcast a more consistent, polished, and professional sound while serving as a welcome for new listeners. The branding and artwork. Just like your theme music, the artwork plays a significant role in creating the first impression for new listeners. It should align with the content of your show and reflect your host and brand's personality. When creating podcast artwork for your show, keep the design simple and ensure the logo is large and legible on mobile devices. Choose imagery that aligns with your show's subject matter while highlighting the name clearly. When selecting colors to represent your brand, aim for 2 or 3 colors to maintain simplicity and avoid complicating the design. If your host is well known in the industry, it might be worth capitalizing on that brand awareness by featuring their image on the cover. With this in mind, your cover art should be 3000 by 3000 pixels in PNG or JPEG formats using RGB color space and have a resolution of 72 dpi. When it comes to your text-based logo, ideally you'll want to create a few variations to use on various platforms like your website, email, newsletters, and partner promotions. You should also include transparent logo versions in full color, blackout, and white knockout. So how do you create all this? Well, Adobe Suite, including Illustrator and Photoshop, is a good choice for designing professional-looking podcast artwork. But for those without access to professional tools, Canva is an option that's more than accessible and offers templates and can even integrate with some podcast hosting providers. Lastly, if you prefer to leave it to the professionals, you can always seek the assistance of a professional designer. They can provide you guidance along the way and create a polished logo and cover art for your podcast. The RSS feed and the hosting platform. An RSS feed is the foundation of all podcasts, delivering your episodes directly to your listeners' phones whenever a new episode is released. In fact, without an RSS feed, some may not even classify your show as a podcast by definition. It would simply be audio content. To ensure your podcast gets included in directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you have to set up an RSS feed and host your episode audio with a hosting provider. There are many to choose from, including popular options like Podbean, Buzzsprout, and Libsyn. And most of them offer monthly plans with pricing starting as low as $7 to $10 a month. Now, while Devenio podcasts have competitive basic hosting plans, if you wanted to take things to the next level and fully integrate your podcast episodes into your overall MarTech stack, we also have our advanced hosting plan, which can integrate your podcast analytics with your overall marketing data, allowing you to track listeners through the buyer journey. With this attribution and ROI at your fingertips, it gives your business a deeper understanding of your audience and their engagement with your podcast. A website or dedicated podcast page. Now, while your podcast will be published and distributed on public directories like Apple Podcasts and delivered to your listeners' phones, you really should have a dedicated web page where your content can live natively. This allows you to own your content and provides more flexibility in guiding the listener journey, especially if you're not on our advanced hosting plan. By creating a full podcast website or dedicating a page on your existing website to your show, you can track visitor activity and direct them to next steps. Things like offering options to sign up for a monthly newsletter or providing a form to submit for questions or even highlighting any related content or events you publish on your website. This webpage will help you convert anonymous listeners into identified leads and foster regular conversations with your audience through things like newsletters and social and other means. Creating a dedicated webpage for your podcast enhances your audience engagement and allows you to better understand and connect with your listeners. Well, that's all I have for you today. If you found the video helpful, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe so you're notified when we drop new content. If you're interested in learning more about how to get your podcast off the ground, feel free to drop us a line at the email in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.